Welcome, everyone, to a special edition of some basketball talk. This is a collaboration episode where we're bringing two brands together, two brands that have been rocking with each other for what are we going on now, Chris? 5 years, 6 years, 6 years where this has been.
Yeah.
So, we haven't talked ball in a while, so we wanted to do a collaboration show, the Coach Mo Murphy Show, with the Off the Ball podcast. Now, I feel like I'm in the building with a superstar. Since the last time we've done the show, my guy has put out, an entire college basketball preview for conferences. How many conferences you did, Chris? Two, right?
I did the American and the American East. Yeah,
So
that
you
was a
did
fun little project, because
two conferences, had a project. You've been doing a lot with uh who is it that you work with, Chris? Go ahead and tell them. I shot a blank as far
Knicks
as
fan TV.
Knicks fan
Yeah,
TV.
yeah, I do some stuff
We'll
with
find you on
them.
there.
Do some stuff. I fill in when they need me. I'll come off the bench, whenever they need me to do some post game stuff, which is always fun when they lose the Knicks because the callers they jump out the building when the Knicks lose. So, but we're 2-0, we're undefeated, so I'm hyped about the new offense. It looks good. The way they're using Cat at times. They kind of use him like they use Sabonis. Just a lot of ball movement. The bench is getting used, 11 deep. Tyler Kolek's getting run, which I'm a big Tyler Kolek guy. So, you know, I know it's a Boston team that is depleted a little bit, you could say. Tatum, they got some guys out, and then the Cavs had some guys out. But we had guys out too against the Cavs. So, and they're supposed to be the top dogs in the East, and we took care of business versus them. So far so good for the Knicks, and a pretty fun start to the season overall. A lot of stuff happening. A lot of stuff
Yo,
happening.
bro, like when I tell you there couldn't just like these past what we're going on day 5 now of the NBA being back. And when I tell you, I honestly leading up to the season, I wasn't the most excited. Like, not that I don't love the NBA. It was just like I wait till it start to kick in. Football is really great right now, especially college football, being an Ohio State fan. But just, coaching basketball, just always being around basketball. And then Tuesday night came and we didn't have practice after school. I shot home, got situated, and watched basketball. And it was two opening night games. You couldn't ask for better games, like especially that first game.
Yeah,
Houston and
that's sweet.
OKC, going into overtime. Kevin Durant on the floor, the reigning champion, Oklahoma City Thunder, SGA, the reigning finals MVP, Chet Holmgren, like just to see that whole thing play out before the game started, to me was just, and then for the game to go the way it went, like, started out slow, started out guys getting rusty, but once they got in the groove of the game, like they were really playing basketball, back
Mhm.
and forth. Guys are playing defense. That's something that I think, I know it'll tone down a little bit in, about a week or two. But right now, I'll say, like, and maybe people will look at like the box scores and say differently, but I think these guys have been just around the league putting more emphasis and effort on defense. It seems like less pickup basketballists to start the season, and like guys really trying to compete, and also understanding that all these guys are talented scorers, but like they're playing some defense. There's some effort. A couple teams are picking up full court right now, and I know it's the beginning of the
Mhm.
season. They're not going to stick to that 82 games, but it just
No.
seems like there's more of an emphasis on playing some defense, which if you add defense, it's not that these guys will score less and nobody doesn't want to see scoring, but we just want to see some effort on trying to stop these guys from scoring every once in a while. Like, we're not asking you to play a 1-2-1-1 full court trap zone defense or nothing like that. We're just, hey man, pick up your guy and have some pride about letting Tyrese Maxey score 40 on your head. Like, at least give some effort to make him earn the 40, not just, I'm walking down the court and letting. So seeing the defense right now, has that been something that you've noticed, Chris, or is that just me kind of just paying attention a little bit on differently, I guess, watching basketball as a coach? I just really feel like there's been more defense in the NBA than I'm used to seeing.
I just think it's more of just attacking matchups, attacking, you know, like when we saw the Rockets in OKC, like they were attacking Reed. They're like, all right, he's their weakest ball handler. We're just going to attack him. And I think that's what we've seen is like, all right, defensively, we're just whoever your weakest guy is, we're just gonna get on him, and we're gonna force him, and we're gonna see, hey, oh, he can't get past half court, oh, we're gonna get on his ass, and I think that's just what we're seeing now. Just from what I seen earlier in the season, like if you're you got the ball in your hand and you're not the most comfortable, or you're a rookie or a youngin, we're gonna get on you. We're gonna get on you, and that's what I've seen early on in this 3-4 days of NBA basketball. Just like, hey, teams are just gonna attack your weakest link, weakest ball handler, and just get on. Because if you do that, you mess up everything. You mess up everything, and we saw that with the Rockets, right? When Reed was in there, he's not ready for that moment, And for the Rockets, they're 0-2 right now. And I think we've talked about this just in the chat and stuff, just amongst it. Like Fred VanVleet isn't like this. I wouldn't say game changer, but like he's solid, right? He's solid as could be. He's a champion, been an all-star, but he wasn't anything crazy. But when you lose him, you lose someone that you can at least trust with the ball in their hand late. Yeah, he's not this elite playmaker or anything, but there's just some type of he can settle things down when things get a little crazy. And NBA is a league of runs, right? Those 10-0 runs that happen, he can calm everything down. They don't have that right now, so that's what I worry about the Rockets now, and with no Fred. And I just wonder what they can do, because they're kind of limited on what they can do as far as there's no free agent point guards that you can trust, right? Realistically, and on the trade, I don't know what they're gonna do trade wise. I think they got to wait before they even trade till December. So it's just you're just seeing teams just attack these weaker level point guards and stuff, and like point guard play is as important as it is ever, right? You just look at the way OKC operates with Shea. Like it's just there's a calmness. Like you just know, like they got everything under control, even if they it's late in the game. They feel comfortable with him at there. So it's just I just see teams defenses just attacking the weakest point at the ball handling spot, and just we're just gonna attack you from the they're blitzing. Essentially, we're gonna blitz you, we're gonna pick you up 64 feet, and that's how we're gonna stifle this off. We're not gonna let KD get comfortable, get to his spots, because you let KD guys like that get to the spots, then they're gonna be cooking. So I think teams are just we're not gonna let you set up, we're gonna pick you up, and we're gonna make things difficult before you cross half court.
Yeah, and I agree. Like when watching the Houston Rockets, the glaring need is they need a point guard. And like you said, like they had one. They had Fred VanVleet. You don't have to have a superstar point guard. Like I'm not looking for a guy to match up and go bucket for bucket with SGA or go bucket for bucket with Steph Curry. Like that's what I got Kevin Durant for. Like that's what I brought him into Houston to get that over the top scorer that can score in the most important moments. But at the same time, like to have KD as the most effective night in and night out, you don't want him to have to be your scorer, your playmaker, one of your defenders. Like not only is KD getting up in age, but that's never been when he's been the most effective consistently. But when you got a guy who just naturally knows how to get guys the ball, you don't have to be a Chris Paul level point guard, but Fred VanVleet can get you a bucket at any moment, and he can also slow the offense down and run through the sets or whatever it may be, but he can do what a point guard does. And people think like just because you can handle the rock a little bit and get to the hole that you can play point guard. Not only is Houston finding that out, but the Dallas Mavericks are finding that out right now too, putting Cooper Flag at the point guard position. And I know you'll have a bunch of thoughts on this. You're an NBA draft guy, so I'll give my thoughts about that situation and then talk to you just because you kind of evaluated Cooper Flag. Not saying necessarily that anybody had some different type of evaluation other than he was the best player in the country, but as far as really watching him playing where you thought he would be the most effective, but you're putting him at the point guard position. And I'm going to tell you, me personally, from the outside looking in, I think this is almost a call from up top. I think this is a Nico Harrison trying to get a unicorn type player. I don't want to say generational. We can't just label everybody like that. Maybe Cooper Flag is, but as a prospect, I don't think he's generational. But the man was a superstar in college.
Box office.
That's right. You know what I'm saying? And so, You can be box office and not be generational. You can be a guy worth getting and taking with the number one pick. Doesn't mean you have to be the next LeBron James, but you still can be a multi-time all-star. Like you could be Jason Tatum. That you're not generational, but you all-star year in, year out, all NBA player year in, year out, just not a one of a kind. But you're putting him at the point guard position. The most confusing thing about it is because you traded Luka. So I think you brought in another 6'8" white guy that can play and got some sauce to his game and thought that going with a big lineup and letting Cooper Flag run the point was the best decision. I don't think that's a Jason Kidd decision. Now, I don't necessarily think that Jason Kidd is the greatest coach in the world, but he almost sounds like he's answering questions that he doesn't even have an answer to because it's not his call when talking about the point guard position. Because you brought D'Angelo Russell in for what? To be the stopgap point guard until Kyrie Irving comes back from injury. I think everybody in America that watches basketball with a basketball brain knew when they signed D'Angelo Russell, like, man, that's a pretty good stopgap point guard, knowing that I'm going to get Kyrie Irving back or hoping that I'm going to get Kyrie Irving back at some point during the season. And then that moves D'Angelo Russell to be my backup point guard. And depending on the way I play basketball, I'm sitting pretty at a pretty position if I got D'Lo coming off the bench while I have Kyrie Irving. But you got D'Lo playing 9 minutes, not even letting him get any type of rhythm within the offense. And then you got guys, it's just like, it's like bad pickup basketball on the offensive side of the ball for the Dallas Mavericks. And I think even with Houston, because you have Kevin Durant, who in these, even though they're 0-2, but he's went in his spurts where he just went and got his own bucket. So the offense will only look clunky for so long until Kevin Durant just grabs the ball and says, I'm going to do what I got to do. But Dallas doesn't really have that right now because Anthony Davis isn't just taking over games. You know, Klay Thompson looks like a shell of himself at this point. I mean, he can't buy a shot, and it's to the point where if Klay gets hot, it's more like vintage Klay as opposed to that being the expectation that he can hit you with on any given night. So their offense is very clunky. They don't have a point guard, even though I think the answer is D'Angelo Russell, especially take away everything. I saw what D'Lo and AD looked like as a duo when they played together in LA and LeBron had missed a few games. I'm not saying that you put them together and they win a championship, but I watched D'Lo average 20 points while AD putting up 30 and 12 in the few games that he rocked with D'Lo as the starting point guard. To me, I would at least take that chemistry and see what I can do with that before I just keep going to this big lineup with no point guard. I mean, you're just literally playing drive and dish basketball. And with guys with the NBA playing defense right now, with other teams playing defense right now, that pickup basketball just doesn't work right now. It's just not going to be the answer. You have to have somebody that is a willing facilitator and just mentally has the IQ to know just how to change the pace of the game, whether it's slow it down, whether it's speed it up, whether it's find a guy open, whether it's my responsibility to make sure guys get in their spots. But you're asking that of guys who just, that's not their natural position and they don't have no experience.
And this is where positionless basketball kind of is like low-key a silly type
it's
of
a myth in a sense.
Because I think that word gets thrown around a lot and it sounds cool. And there was probably a point where I believed in that, but you still need a point guard. You still need a big man, right? You still need guys to play their position. You still need a guy who can shoot the ball. You still need a good forward. You still need a center who can rebound, box out, and play in the post. And you still need a point guard. But also with teams like the Mavericks and the Atlanta Hawks and the Rockets, I think there's an identity issue, identity crisis with those teams because they're kind of stuck with, like, the Hawks got the number one pick last year and it's like ricochet. They're like, oh, we didn't think we were going to get the number one pick last year. Like, we were probably going to blow it up and we get the number one pick and it's like, okay, maybe we got something here. Maybe we'll keep going at it. And, you know, Jalen John. So, and then you re-sign these guys, but you're kind of like, it's kind of like, you should have still stuck with trying to, you know, restart this thing. Cause I feel like you're just trying to go over and you'd be 8 seed over and over. And it's like, what are we doing? It's like, remember Orlando used to be the 8 seed when they had Aaron Gordon every year. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, it's time to, you're going to be the 8 seed every year. Like, what good is that?
It's
like,
time to pick a direction, bro.
Yeah. And like with Dallas, obviously, they get AD, obviously they trade Luca, and they get Kyrie, and they just went to the finals 2 years ago, but then they get blessed with the number one pick. The NBA gods bless them, and so they're also like, all right, we want to win, but we got this kid who's number one pick, so they're kind of like, I the situations low key, they sound good for young players, but in real like in reality, it's I don't know if it's the best spot. And because now Dallas, because Nico wants to win, right? His job's on the line, even though he got blessed with number one pick. His job's still on the line. He wants to show that he still made the right move. But you have this number one pick, so you have to make sure he is the focal point. But you still got AD, you still got Kyrie, you still got Clay, guys who want to win. So you kind of like you don't know which direction to go in. I think it's gonna. Everyone was on the Dallas bandwagon. I just didn't see it. I don't like the pieces they have. I think it's too clunky. If you have Luka, yes. When you have that type of point guard, that type of playmaker who could get everyone involved, fine. Yes, it works, but you don't have that. And you're forcing Flag to be something he's not. Listen, I watched him at Duke. I'm a Blue Devils fan. I watched him a lot. And we can go from the beginning of the season where remember all those times where Shire had him, they run ISO, and he struggled a little bit. Now, he got better as the season go on. He got better as a play, but I always thought he was a secondary playmaker. Like if he's just second playmaker on the team, oh, that's good. But now you're just really like, oh, play point guard, bro. This is still the NBA. Like, yeah, he's a tremendous athlete. He's 6'8", 6'9", got the crazy wing. This is the NBA, bro. You got Wemby's. Like he couldn't do stuff against Wemby. So like, these teams really annoy me with trying to fit in these generational type players or number one picks, and also trying to win. That I don't remember a time where that's actually worked. Like the time, like so you have to pick a direction. Like I understand you want to win now, but Cooper, you got Cooper Flag. Like let that you should build around him.
Listen to how
but there's I don't know. It just I don't like it.
Listen to me though. Listen to how simple this is though. Just rock with me for a second. I'm only a high school basketball coach, but I coach basketball nonetheless. You can maximize Cooper Flag right now. He can help you win while also growing into being the guy that's going to take over the franchise. You have to move him off the point guard position, but it's so simple. D'Lo, Clay, Coop, AD, Lively, or Gafford. That is the simplest lineup to try and now you put Coop on the wing, you put Clay on the wing. We have a drive and dish type of offense. We got some shooters. You can get Coop the ball from D'Lo, and now he can make some plays in the ISO situation, pump fake, one dribble, get to his spot and pull up. It ain't like Coop gonna get you like Kyrie do, but if you get the defense moving, now he can get to his spots with a little jab step, and that's his type of game. AD can still stretch the floor. He can kill you from 18 feet in. And then you're trying to get Lively to start to shoot threes and try and bring him out as well. But the lineup is so simple. You're trying to show that we can have another 6'8" guy that we drafted to replace Luka. Because here's the thing, Chris. If take away the Luka trade, if this was, let's say Dallas got Cooper Flag because they always had Anthony Davis and he got injured and Kyrie Irving got injured. The team fell flat on its face. They ended up being one of the worst teams, and they landed Cooper Flag. But Luka was never a Dallas Maverick. Then you're not feeling the pressure of having to make Cooper Flag something he's not and make him some type of player that can replace Luka. Right. You're not thinking like that. You're not building your program like that. Now you're implementing him into, bro, you have superstar potential, and we could get you at superstar potential as a rookie, which means you have the potential to average 18 to 20 points a game, and we can fill you in your rookie year, your first 2 years, you can average 14, 15, and just be a key role player piece while learning from a champion like Kyrie Irving, while learning from a champion like Anthony Davis, while learning from champion like Klay Thompson, while learning from an all-time point guard like Jason Kidd and soaking up some knowledge that he has for the game. But you have to, you gotta, everybody got to let the Luka trade go. I understand the hurt is there. I understand with Nico, the pressure, because you're the guy that's the face of the Luka trade. You might feel the pressure. Jason
Kidd,
booing
again. They're
And
booing you
Jason
then, the
Kidd
fans.
might be in a position where he never wanted to trade Luka. He never signed off on that. But everybody now has to deal with the chips that they got on the table. And what you do have is you have a point guard. Is D'Angelo Russell the strongest point guard? Is he going to win you a championship at point guard? No. But you brought him in to be a stopgap for Kyrie Irving. It's not that hard. Like, we're making the Mavericks situation. How can we be the most deadly lineup on defense? And Nico Harrison bringing it defensively, Cooper Flag and Klay Thompson being your two smallest guys on the court. It sounds great, but guess what? Things got to happen on the other side of the ball. We could hold a
Offensively, it's
team
got
to
to click.
100.
Yeah, like
We can
it's
hold a
offensive
team
league.
to 98 points, but if we can't score 98, then none
Exactly.
of that matters of how good we are on defense.
It's,
You have
it's
to sacrifice a little bit of defense, a little bit of size by starting D'Angelo Russell and Klay and Cooper Flag and doing the natural basketball thing and putting guys at their natural position. Now you have 5 guys who are satisfied playing at their natural position. Who knows what that can start to look like? D'Lo has played with Klay, even though it was a very, very short stint, but he played with Klay, he practiced with Klay, he got in the building with Klay, he built some chemistry with Klay. He's played with Anthony Davis on the LA Lakers. Like, he's been an all-star point guard before. I'm not saying that he'll be an all-star again, but he's been an all-star before, and he's only, 28, 29 years old. It ain't like D'Lo 35 and on his way out the league. You put him at point guard for what you signed him for until Kyrie Irving comes back. Like, that's what you brought him in there for. You didn't bring him in there to play 9 minutes, not let him get no flow of the game, and then put everything on the fact we don't have a point guard because you're trying to have Cooper Flag replace Luka. He's not Luka. He's a special talent in his own sense, and you have the answer to maximize it right now. In the meantime, until Kyrie Irving comes back on your roster, like in your rotation, it's a very simple rotation, Chris. It's not that hard. Why do we have to be? Why does everybody think they have the answer? Have to be smarter than everybody. All right, I traded Luka for Anthony Davis. I feel like defense wins championships. I went and brought D'Angelo Russell into Dallas because Kyrie Irving got injured. I needed a stopgap point guard. Everything I did showed me that, like, hey man, you might be, because you got blessed with this Cooper Flag pick, you might be able to recover from the Luka trade and really put together a championship team. And then you go out there and D'Lo's not playing, and PJ Washington's starting at the 2, and you're just trying to go big. And if Gafford was playing, I feel like they would have PJ Washington, Cooper Flag, AD, Derek Lively, and Daniel Gafford on the court at the same time. Like, him not being available is the only reason why that lineup has not been implemented on the floor at any given point in time. But they're committing so much to defense because Nico is having to stand on his own words. And maybe the rest of the organization from the top down is backing him in the coaching decisions and everything like that. But the simple thing is really just rock out D'Lo, Klay, Coop, AD, Lively. Or you really could bring Coop off the bench and start PJ Washington. And you could bring Coop as a 6-man as a rookie. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I don't get the
is not going to be
he's the number one
one.
pick. Yeah, I get he's the number one pick, but you don't have to force him into the starter lineup either. Like, if you think he's better off with the second unit and going against other teams' backups, then that should be the move.
Personnel. You have the personnel to make that decision.
And maybe
you didn't, but you do.
Now you have to do that. You have to start him because now there's more pressure, like you said. Like, and this is what happens when you make the moves you make and you're in win now mode. And you talk about defense, they give up almost $120 to the Wizards. They let Keyshawn George. George was a late first round pick. He was actually a Knicks draft pick, and they wound up trading him. I wasn't crazy about that, but whatever. But he dropped 36, I think, 30, right? 34. Like, you let Keyshawn George, a 20-year-old, go. You're supposed to be defense. So that's my thing, is if the defensive philosophy ain't going to work, then your whole plan is going to falter. And what's next? So that's the thing when you try to in win now mode, but you're trying to fit in this supposedly generational type of kid. It can lead to, and that's what the Hawks are going through too, like their identity crisis. There's certain teams that are going through the identity crisis, trying to, how do we blend in the young guys with our vets, especially those teams that are trying to win. And it sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you just gotta pick a path. It's, hey, we're gonna go all in with like the Knicks. Look at the Knicks. Perfect example. The Knicks essentially right? We had all those draft picks. Like we were all building, right? Remember we had RJ Barrett, quickly,
Mhm.
Toppin. We were going there. And then, we had a little bit of success and it was like, Randall leveled up and then we got Brunson, right? And I think Brunson kind of what's that word I'm looking for? Kind of the timeline went a little faster
Sped it
than
up.
we
Yeah,
yeah, he
he
sped it
revamped the
up. So it was like F them picks. And that's what essentially what the Knicks did, right? They said F them picks. Like we're going all in on the vets. We're gonna sprinkle in some of like the Tyler Kolicks and the McCullers and some of those young guys, but we're going all in. Like they're trying to trade last year's pick, Bacombe. Like because remember I just told you Keyshawn George, that was the original pick, 24. Then they traded back and wound up taking Pacome Dadier. He's on the trading block. They want to get rid of him because they're like, no, we got to get vets. We're in win now mode. So
yeah.
I respect, even though you know me, I like homegrown. I'm that's how it is. I think you still win championships through building through the draft, drafting your own players. But if you're going to go the all in way with the vets, then that's the way you should go. Like don't like try to blend like too much of the youngins, like a little bit. But hey, we're gonna go in with the vets, and a lot of these teams are having those type of identity crisis because like if you're the Rockets, realistically, you want like getting KD is cool, and you needed that type of score, but it's like we got a nice little young core here. They had Amen is only 20, 22, 21. Alperen Sengun is looking like he's the next great big, you know. They got, Jabari Smith, they just gave 100 million. Tari Eason, he's had a little bit of a funk to the
That
start the
boy
season,
been
but
bad, boy. They
he's
want
been
him
bad.
out.
He messing up his back because he turned down 9 figures too. Remember, he turned down 9 figures. So restricted free agency. I mean, that's the thing you take the risk with is you turn down. But if you ain't balling, I think he probably should have just took the money and then you can always get a second contract. He's young enough where you can get in the second contract, and if he balls out, you can get. But some of these teams going through identity crisis. Sometimes you got to pick a path. Pick up like I know we don't like a lot of teams with the tanking. And listen, there's gonna be teams, Mo. They're gonna be teams tanking because the
Mhm.
kids coming out this year, that might be the best 1, 2, 3. We could have had the best 1, 2, 3 and 03, but the Pistons messed that up. But this is gonna be maybe the best 1, 2, 3 we've seen maybe ever with Peterson, Boozer, and AJ. So the tanking is gonna be at an all time, but you know you sometimes just gotta pick a path. And if you're in this, we don't know, you stuck in the middle in any sport, you stuck in the middle. You don't want to be there. You
That's the
gotta
worst
sometimes you
place.
gotta pick a path.
It's the worst place to be. You end up there for a few years, and you just kind of like, all right, are we either going to rebuild this thing or are we going to try and really win? We're just sitting here like the Chicago Bulls right now. Like they're just in the worst spot, but they created it to where they're trying to win a little bit, but they didn't put the right pieces together and they really essentially put bad contracts together. And now they're trying to go, they are now trying to swing a different direction. And hopefully it won't be mediocre. But even like you said, I think teams think too far in the future when making moves. Like not every people understand like I don't have a roster to win now. That's a realistic thing. There's 30 teams in the NBA. There's not 30 teams that have a chance to win the championship this year. That's just a known fact. There's teams
Mhm.
on different timelines in their franchise history right now. But to think about like I'm gonna refrain from making this trade because these guys could be something in 3 to 5 years. They could be, or they could be no better than what they are right now, and you just get this type of production from the time they're 22 to the time they're 30. And if you're good enough with this type of production, then cool. But people won't necessarily take as many chances and big swings for trades that can help them win right now because they're so afraid of putting a ding on the future 3 to 5 years from now. But like Chris, all the teams that think about 3 to 5 years and don't make certain moves because of 5 years from now and the young talent, how many of those teams have won championships? Like even OKC, through getting all of their draft picks, and you got to give them credit, but making swings of trades they were able to build this team through the draft, but basically build it around taking a swing and getting SGA. Like we're trading Paul George and we got SGA and all these draft picks, and that's what ignited OKC being able to build into a team that won a championship. But
Mhm.
doesn't mean everybody could go that route. And when you hit that point where you're almost where at like OKC is, and you don't get there and you start to drop off, you got to commit to, man, we got to re-up instead of like, all right, well, we'll see where this goes. And we just slowly decline into, we're a borderline playoff team every year and we're trying to figure it out. And now we're in no man's land. We're too good to get a number one draft, a top 5 draft pick, but we're too bad to have a realistic chance of winning a championship. Like you say, that's how you put yourself being there, is by thinking 3 to 5 years ahead, not making certain moves. You should think about the future. Don't just sign a guy because he went off for 1 year, so now I'm going to sign him for $100 million. That's not what I'm saying. But don't necessarily be afraid to make so many moves because, well, this guy's 22 and I think he's going to be a superstar at 27. Maybe. But this guy right now is 27 that you're trying to trade for, that you're thinking about trading for, or this guy's 30 and he can help you win a championship right now. And he's shown you as a role player, as a star player, whatever it may be, that he can contribute to the championship. He's already shown you that, and he's in that point of his career where he can still do that. So you'll just think so much about the future, and you'll people value draft picks so much that I think they'll compile draft picks and then do nothing with them. Now you just got all these draft picks, you drafted all these young guys, and guess what you look like? The Brooklyn Nets. Like, you could end up looking like the Brooklyn Nets. Could they be good in 10 years? They could, because all the young guys that they drafted panned out. But the chances and the percentage and the likeliness of that happening is slim to none. But I do, since we talk about draft picks, we talk about generational. Chris, let's talk about generational, brother, because there is a generational player in the state of Texas, and he doesn't play for Houston, and he doesn't play for Dallas. That boy played for San Antonio. Chris, listen, I hate it at times. Listen, I've been watching Victor Wembanyama, and I hate it at times because of who's a fan of the Spurs. Like, then you have to concede in the chat, like, yo, this dude is one, but Walker's a fan of the Spurs, and Walker's a fan of Wembanyama, and he's the one that got the grace of a true generational talent. Chris, this
again, right? Imagine three times in their franchise.
He's insane.
Centers.
Victor Wembanyama is insane, Chris. Like, just the fact that now he's getting his skill set down. Like, he's really having a true skill set. He's gotten in the gym. He's gotten a little bit bigger. His balance is better. Like, he's grown a couple inches. Pause. Sounded, but like, he's gotten bigger. He's gotten in the way. He's gotten with OGs. He worked with Kevin Garnett. He worked with Hakeem Olajuwon. He went to make himself a better man and be able. He just really focused on himself and how he could be the best version of himself. And starting out the season, Chris, I mean, this dude arguably looks like at the end, by season's end, we might be saying he's the best player in the league. Like, do you not feel that? But like, this dude, and I know some of it is just the fact of how tall he is, but he could just be that tall and be Boban. Like, Yao Ming was 7'6", and Yao Ming wasn't like this. So when you're watching Victor Wembanyama, like, we've seen guys that are very, very tall, but not with the skill set, where you're that tall and you got a KD-like skill set, but now you're developing a post game and people can't just body you like that. And because of how tall and how long you are, you even see when Zion bodied Victor Wembanyama the other night, Wemby still was able to block it because, like, yeah, you got me knocked back, but I go so high up, you can't get over that. And so this dude, it's tough to put into words what you're watching when you're watching Wemby, especially when you watch him cook for like 40 on opening night, like, without
no turnovers too.
He wasn't even shooting threes, Chris. He shot 2 threes. Last year, we're used to seeing Wemby, some of it is going off, but he was like forcing outside jump shots and forcing a lot of threes. Chris, he scored 40 efficiently, shooting mid-range jump shots, getting to the basket. He shot 2 threes. He was 1 for 2 from the 3 when he scored 40, but he only shot 2 threes.
Good. That should be his game. I always said, why are you shooting so many threes?
That's when you know an offseason works. Like, that's when you know when he went to commit to being the best version of himself. You're seeing at the start of the season, like, it worked. It seemed like it worked. Maybe he goes back to his bad habits, but right now he's starting the season with new habits and a new possibility of how good this guy could be. And Chris, it's scary for the league. And this might be, I think this is the moment that, when we saw LeBron at a point where you're like, yo, this might end up being the best player in the league. Like, it might get scary for the league. Or when you saw that with Michael Jordan back in the day, or when you saw it with Kobe, like, this is one of those. Like, when you saw it with Kevin Durant, This is in Steph Curry in 2015 when he came and took the NBA by storm for the next 6-7 years. Like this is one of those situations with Victor Wembanyama, and he's much like everybody. He's built. He's not built like anything we've seen before. As far as,
It,
especially when you're talking about a skill set at that height and that size, he's a taller Kevin Durant. He's literally a taller Kevin Durant.
it really is a he's KD, KG, Hakeem Olajuwon, like all in one, and it's not even like a crazy like thing. Like no, that's what he is. Like if you could combine those three guys into one, that's what you get with maybe a little bit of a Dirk too, because now he's doing some of that one-legged step back. So it's like he had 9 blocks versus the Pelicans. Like Zion had a few times where he got into like that first dunk, and then there was another one he got. You could get him on a few times, depending on the balance, depending if how downhill you're going. If you have a player like Zion who's 265 coming downhill, even if Wemby's coming weak side, because of even though Zion's given up maybe a full 12 inches pause, but he's still 265, he still can get enough, to get to and he had a few of those yesterday, but still there was spots where Zion is trying, and then Wemby's just like, yeah. It's legit as if we're playing against our kids. Like if you were playing against your son,
Oh yes,
and you're
bro.
just doing that's what and it's crazy because we've never seen something like we have NBA players who are like, you're just watching them dribble, you're like, oh no, we can't. And maybe we're overreacting to Dallas because they went against San Antonio, and San Antonio's defense was just absolutely, and they just made them look that bad. Because maybe Dallas isn't that as bad as we thought, but
But Dallas turned around and lost to Washington, bro.
exactly, like I said, and then they bounced back
Washington,
a little bit.
and they beat Washington, then I'd be all with you with like, yeah, there is a
Yeah,
unicorn over there, a
yeah, you
generational
still
talent, a
need to
guy
be
playing.
Washington.
Like it could be all of
That's a
that.
fair too.
Looking at San Antonio, like instead of killing Dallas, maybe we're watching the making of another Spurs dynasty with Victor Wembanyama, Stephen Castle. Like I think there's a world where,
Oh, that's
to me,
another one. Stephen Castle,
bro, baller.
good.
And I
I
think he
told
opens up
you.
the window. In my opinion, I think he opens up the window. To me, I think the loudest noise coming from San Antonio is the best day for the future. I think trade De'Aaron Fox. I think
The thing is you just gave him a new contract. He's in the back end of his 20. So that I think if
they
they
won't
had
trade him today, and they probably won't trade him by the trade deadline. I think that's more of a in the
that's
off
next
season
year.
kind of thing.
That's next year.
But,
Yeah,
but even
you have to see how it looks how Wemby looks with Fox, because Fox, what he can do attacking downhill, that just helps Wemby even more. So we have to see how that looks. But one thing, they're the shooting, and you know what? They're not shooting a lot of threes so far. So because that's not their strength. They know what their strength is. They know it's attacking downhill. Stephen Castle, that's what that's his bread and butter is attacking downhill. Obviously Wemby, when you get Harper, that's what he can do. He can get to the lane. He can score, in the restricted area. So they're going with their strength. They're not jacking up 33s. They've been taking I think around 20 in the first few games. Like I said, it's a small sample size, but they're playing within their strength, which I wish more teams would. And they're doing that. And that's why, Stephen Castle, listen, me and Kev told a bunch of people about Stephen Castle. Like, he's the real deal. Don't look at the stats. He sacrificed so much at UConn, sacrificed so much of his game. This dude was a 5-star, top 5 prospect, coming out of high school. Like, he's better than what his stats showed. And I told everyone I had him and Klingon 1-2. Like, those are the top 2. I still think they should have went 1-2. Which other one you wanted? I thought the Hawks should have took Klingon because I think him and Trey would have done magic together. But Castle's the real deal, man. He's the real deal. And the Spurs are in a luxury position because obviously, to me, I always said they're going to have to pick between Castle and Harper. They got to pick which young guy is going to be the face with who's going to help be that 1B to Wemby. And they're going to have to pick. And I always said it's Castle. I think Castle has all. I said this, and people got on me. I said he's SGA with a little bit more athleticism, and I said that, and people and now I'm seeing people see, and I'm like, You
see the light.
just got to fix it.
They see the light. You just gotta wait too. I mean, he's a young guy, but listen, Chris, this is God, I hate talking about the Spurs. We'll move on from them after I say this, but the Spurs have put themselves in a position where not only would you be surprised if Wemby's so great that he puts them in position to be in the Western Conference Finals and have an opportunity to get to the finals and win the championship, you can also turn around in an offseason where there's a possibility that like Giannis Antetokounmpo could be available, and you have a Stephen Castle, De'Aaron Fox, or Dylan Harper to dangle with some draft picks for a Giannis Antetokounmpo to pair him with Wemby. Not saying that the Spurs are going to do that, but the fact that they would have those type of options and those type of players to dangle in a trade, like not only are draft picks important, but if you have an all-star level player in De'Aaron Fox, or you have a future all-star level player in Stephen Castle or Dylan Harper, now obviously you pick one of those three become untouchable in your eyes, and I think it'll be Stephen Castle will play himself into being the untouchable, and you'll dangle you'll probably even try and keep Dylan Harper and dangle De'Aaron Fox, but I just think two of those might have to go. You are talking about bringing Giannis in and creating essentially a big three, and this isn't the era of the NBA where you could just have all these major contracts on the roster at the same time. So I think De'Aaron Fox would go obviously in that type of trade, but they've put themselves in a position where they have an opportunity to do really something special because of how great Wemby has the possibility of being. And we're only at the start of the season. This guy ain't even peaking to the peak of his powers, may not even peak to his powers this year. It might not even be this year, but just the possibility of what could be for the rest of the season for Wemby and what they can do this season as well as in the offseason with what they have on their roster and the draft picks that they will have available. The Spurs are going to be an interesting story to follow all year. I do want to ask you about something that you brought up in the chat. We do not, release things that be discussed in the chat unless it's the basketball or the football, the actual analytical things that we talk about in the chat, like Paolo Banchero. Now, a few of y'all kind of, I guess, led by you, feel like maybe the conversation about what we think of Paolo Banchero should change. Not saying that the guy's not an all-star player. You weren't saying that the guy isn't a very good player. I think the expectation of what Paolo can be as opposed to what he is and what you see him going to be are two different things.
And I'm a Duke fan, so I come with biases. I try to be fair, but there's a little bias. You root for your guys, right? That for your colleges that you root
Oh,
for, right? You root for
100%.
your
And
Buckeye
I will
guys, right?
state my bias. Yeah, I'm biased. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So like when Paolo was in high school and Duke was on I was like, oh yeah, this is. And then with his first year at Duke, his only year at Duke, he killed it, and I was like, he should have been number one pick. And there was like a little bit where it was like Jabari's going one, Holgram two, and it'd be Paolo, and then that shifted, and he wound up going number one, and then had a good rookie year. It wasn't efficient, but he's a rookie. He still averaged 20 as a rookie. That's still good, no matter how efficient or inefficient you are. And then next year he had his all-star season. And then, but there were still some things, and there were still some things where I'm like, okay, let me take the Duke hat off. Let me watch this unbiased. And I'm like, okay, obviously he has the frame, right? 6'10", 250. There's a lot of people say he's like mellow. I've seen LeBron stuff. I never saw the LeBron stuff. I don't think he's the playmaker at all. I don't think he handles the ball like LeBron does, and just doesn't move the way LeBron does. He has the size of LeBron, but there's just a lot of the inefficiency is what's stopping me from thinking he could be an MVP. And this is what I'm talking about when I say, okay, we got to stop with like thinking I don't think he's an MVP level player anymore. I hate to like stop to think that he can't be that, but I just don't see it anymore. Like after his second year, I'm like, yeah, there's MVP. He could be, but I don't see it. I think there's too much inefficiency. And with this Orlando team, I know they added Desmond Bane. I wanted them to get a more of a lead ball handler to help get the ball out of Paolo's hand and help create him and get him in open spots, get him better shots. Because there's a lot of times where Paolo, I ISO. He's pounding and he's shooting bad threes, contested jump shots, and I just feel like that's just who he is. That's his game, and that doesn't mean he's not going to be an All Star level player, maybe an All NBA level player, but the MVP arc that I maybe thought he had 2 years ago, I don't see that. And listen, there's people that are saying Franz Wagner is the franchise player. And in my opinion, if that's the case, Orlando isn't going to go as far as maybe some people think. Paolo needs to be 1A, but if he doesn't level up his game as far as being a better playmaker, stop forcing bad shots, be a better perimeter player, better defensively, then Orlando's not going to go. It's not going to be like with Aaron Gordon levels where the 8 seed, but eventually people are going to be like, we don't see this, we don't see that ceiling with him. So that's my thing. I still think he's a great player. I still think he could be an All NBA player, but I don't know if he could be an MVP level player. I mean, when I thought just a few years ago after his second year, where I was like, okay, he's 23 and 10, like there was some good things, but I know last year he was banged up, he got hurt, he missed almost half the season last year. But there's just some things you watch, and if you want to be in that upper echelon, if you want to be one of the MVPs, you got to be a more efficient. You got to take better shots, and I don't know. Maybe as the season goes on, we'll see. Obviously they just added Bane, and they have what's his face, who's the point guard? I keep forgetting his name, buddy from Gonzaga,
Jalen Suggs.
Jalen Suggs. I don't know if Jalen Suggs is the ideal fit as a lead guard, for that team, but I don't know. I just don't think Paolo is an MVP caliber player anymore, and that hurts to say because I'm a Duke guy, but I just think I don't know if he's going to be as good as maybe we thought he was going to be.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I just feel like giving up where you were on Paolo 2 years ago and kind of moving on from that. Chris, he's only 22 years old. Like, yes,
Yeah,
he's
I
showing
know.
deficiencies, but the guy is still young. Like, this guy, 5 years from now, will just be in 5 years will just be entering the prime of his career. Like, the prime is that your prime, the 27 to 32. So in 5 years, he'll be entering the prime of his career. This guy got a lot of things to fix up before it's really time that been in the league 8-9 years. It's time to start winning championships. If I haven't won one, if the expectation is I'm a top 5 player in the league, it's time for me to start taking my team to the NBA finals, being in that MVP conversation. And I think he still has the possibility. I'm not all the way out on Paolo as far as, and you're not all the way out. I mean, you said he could be an all NBA player. You still think of him in high regard. You just don't think of him in the highest of regards as far as the potential that you thought he had. I
Yeah,
still think it's there, but I agree with you that like right now he needs to clean up some things if that's where he wants to be. But just the simple fact that he's still only 22 years old. And I think sometimes we even expect these guys to grow a lot faster because they come in the league young, they're one and done. And so, well, you're 4 years into the league, but like we're also in a time where there's 25-year-olds playing college basketball still, and then
yeah,
coming into the NBA and still not necessarily ready at 25, 26 years old. So for him, yeah, you're 4 years into the league, but like I'm still 22 years old, and there's still guys that are 27, 28, 29, 30 years old doing this in the prime of their careers on their career path, chasing their legacy. And I'm coming right behind those guys, but I still think he has a few years before. I think if I'm still seeing this where he could give me this all-star level of play, but I'm seeing still the inefficiencies at the age of 25, 26, then I might be like, that's who he is. He's an all-star guy. He could be second, third team all NBA every year, have Orlando in the playoffs and maybe win a playoff series every other year, could find themselves in the Eastern Conference Finals, but won't be that MVP level player to take you to a championship. But right now, I still think that potential is there. The inefficiencies are there, but yeah, this is his fourth year in the league, fourth year in the league, and we expect more, but because he came after one, but still he's 22 years old. So I'm just not gonna jump all the way into the point that I don't think he could be an MVP level player, but also at the same time, like you're also comparing him to the guy that we just talked about in Victor Wembanyama. Not that they came in the same, but just they're going to be, they're around the same age, came a year apart, and
mm-hmm.
that's going to be like with Paolo getting all the hype and people trying to call him LeBron and stuff like that and saying that he has top 5 potential. So does Wemby. And so when we looking at Wemby, you looking at Paolo, like you start to try and compare him to that. And if you're comparing Paolo right now and still with his inefficiencies to what you're seeing out of Wemby, then you're kind of like, yeah, he's never going to be that level of guy, as opposed to Wemby still just might be one of the, I mean, we might be witnessing one of the greatest players we've ever seen lay down his path. And this is what it looks like. It's kind of, it's what some of the things we were saying when it was LeBron and when it was Michael Jordan and when it was Kobe Bryant, like when it was these guys' turn, we were seeing things in awe in very similar ways. He's just doing it different because he's built different. We've never seen a guy like this, but we're in awe in the same way that we were in awe of watching the all-time greats play basketball.
It's
Yo.
crazy. I mean, I tell people, man, the talent that's in the league, the talent that's about to come in the league, it's just basketball's in a good spot. I mean, there's some things that I think Adam Silver wants to clean up that he that we saw recently happened, with some gambling stuff, head coaches involved in some with the mafia, that's absolutely insane. So the stuff like that has to get cleaned up. But as far as the actual game and the talent, like it's unreal. And like I said, in the next few years, I mean, I like always looking in the grassroots scene, seeing who the kids coming up, and I'm just like, dude, the talent that are 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds. I mean, and like I mentioned before, the big three that potentially could be the top 3 picks next year. I mean, the league's it's in good hands, man. There's so much talent. Even like we're looking at the Wizards, and you're like, okay, they got some guys. Keyshawn George could hoop, Sar. They got some guy cool about, like, they got guys. So like every team has like a couple guys that you're like intrigued with. Like there's not, I mean, even the Nets have some guys where I'm like, okay, like maybe this guy could be some, Demon, from BYU. Like at one point he was supposed to be like a top 5 pick and he dropped, but that's someone who has intriguing, traits, so there's just so much talent. It's insane. I mean, just think about what the Spurs, they got 2 point guards, top 4 picks back to back, and one's a backup where he probably starts on every other team. Probably any other team, he's the lead. He's their lead. Harper's a starting point guard for maybe every other team who doesn't have, a top level point guard, right? He starts
any
for
other team that would have picked him at the pick that the Spurs.
Yeah. Any other team whoever was in that top 5 scene,
yes,
he's their starting point guard. Like, and what's crazy? He probably a better fit for Dallas than Cooper Flag is, but you can't pass up on Cooper Flag, so I get that. But
like once you got that number 1 pick,
Nico wouldn't have made it. Nico would not have been able to make it.
It wouldn't have been a respectable basketball decision. But before we close out, like this, I want to close out with this conversation because you kind of hinted towards it. And so my thought on, bro, there's so much talent. And like, I'm a coach in the city of Dallas. And like everybody knows the DFW Metroplex right now for basketball might be the number 1 spot, girls and boys, as far as grassroots high school basketball, getting talent overall. You could go from west to east, 50 miles east, 50 miles west, and everything in between as far as Dallas. But to me, we got to protect the sport, Chris. Like, we got to protect the sport of basketball. And it starts up top. And it's like seeing this stuff with gambling, messing with the possible integrity of basketball changes things. Then lets you go to college. Look at the issues with college right now. High level, championship level college coaches are having issue with the fact that, like, now, hey, you could play 3-4 years of pro basketball in whatever pro league and then come play college basketball. Like, because of the NIL, you can go from being a pro, like, you're no longer an amateur athlete. I don't know whether that's good for the sport of basketball right now or not. The fact that guys can play in the G League and play overseas and be 21 and come back to college, like, does it make it a little more, maybe does it make it a better watch because you got some higher level talent, some older, more mature talent? Maybe. But then when you're talking about protecting the sport, like, it's damaging the next up and coming generation because they're no longer really like, you know how great you really now have to be to really be recruited at the top level schools. Like, we're really only talking 4 or 5 stars. We're not just talking about like, you really, and there's some 4 stars that are going to go to lower level schools because they're not even recruiting right now because of what's
Yeah.
going on in college basketball. I can get pro ball players. I can get guys from overseas that are 18, 19, 20 years old, been playing pro since they were 14, 15, 16 years old, because at college, I got to win, bro. Like, when I'm
Yeah.
in college, I got to win. At the end of the day, being a college coach, your job is to win. And so that's what they're doing. But you got the integrity of the game at the professional level being within question, while also like the essence of what makes college basketball so special, and at the recruiting level, it's completely changing. High level D1 coaches aren't even recruiting high school
No.
athletes. They're keeping teams, they're keeping kids, high school kids, on their radar in case they fail in the transfer portal. But they're really waiting for the transfer portal to open. We'll have an
It's
offer
all
for you, but that the want you to accept it, or the fact of you accepting it and us acknowledging it on the table, you have to commit to us after we see what we do in the transfer portal, because we
well,
might offer, because we might have to give this offer to a vet that's going to help me keep my job.
exactly. Doing the whole college basketball preview stuff for this year, I covered the American, and I covered every team in the American. So I did my homework, and I'm just going through the roster, and I'm like, oh, this team doesn't have a freshman. Oh, this team doesn't have a freshman. Oh, this team is all portal kids. And I talked to a few coaches, head coaches, and I asked them, I was like, how difficult is it knowing that the old school way that you're programmed to, like, all right, we gotta recruit, we gotta get these we're gonna go for those 3 stars, 4 stars, and I was like, how do you go from that mentality to now, like, hey, bump that, we gotta hit the portal, like, and some of these teams that I saw in the American, like Memphis, every single player from the portal, no freshman. They did not recruit a single freshman. And then there was a bunch of other schools, but Memphis, all transfer portal kids. And as good as that is, because we want more teams to be involved, we want to, because I know a lot of people complain with college basketball. It's like, yo, I don't know who's on these teams. And how do you know the more players? Because, back in the day growing up for me, obviously those kids stay three for the Jay Williams, the Shane
Bro,
Battier's,
they
the dudes,
stayed three,
those
four,
days.
5 years, bro.
So
Them
you
North
knew
Carolina
them,
teams, them Duke
but
teams, they had one and done type of guy.
but
Like,
those
everybody, even
guys were,
Hansborough stayed.
yeah, but those guys were recruited. Like Coach K recruited them, and
Right. And kept them, though.
those
He
days are
recruited them.
gone. So like Mo, like going through these, I was like, oh, this kid's been on 5 teams. This kid's been on 4 teams, and just like trying to match like the rosters, because I got a roster sheet and then I had them matched up with other like websites to be like, okay, is this kid even on the team anymore? Oh no, he transferred to another school, because it says he's on the roster, but he actually transferred. You like to double to confirm to make sure this, because I don't want to write up about a player and he don't even not even on the roster. That was a lot of that. I had to do it. That's why this one, when I did that, I was like, whoa.
So it was
Like the
pretty
mid
eye-opening.
majors, it was. I remember texting Kev like, "Yo, bro, when you're doing your thing, do you realize how many transfers, like schools are just all transfers? There's no, and what this affects is those 4 stars. Like a lot of those kids aren't just going like we always thought 4 stars were still highly, right? But there's a lot of
High caliber, bro.
those
But they're
back end 4 stars, and like if you're a 3 star, you're probably going to a mid major, and or you're going I see a lot of three stars going
going
JUCO route.
JUCO, bro, going to
JUCO,
2
they
years,
just gonna go JUCO and then wait for the Bamas and the Dukes and all them
and
to
then hit the portal at
so
20 years
like
old and
yeah,
kill and
so
get
like
that NIL money. I'm gonna go
it's
JUCO. I'm gonna drop 20 a game.
yeah.
I'm gonna be worth 900,000 by the time I'm 20 years old. Then the
You're gonna
Alabama
drop 20,
gonna
yeah,
come get me.
20 a
Yeah,
game. I'm gonna put up stats, because if you're stuck on the bench and you ain't playing, well, guess what? I don't have film. And then if I want to transfer, then I'm gonna be stuck. Now I'm gonna go drop down 2 levels, which I saw a lot. I saw a lot of kids who decided to go to a Big Time program, and now they're 2 levels down because they got no film. So, like, to me, what a lot of these kids should do is go to. There's nothing wrong with going the JUCO route. Go the JUCO
No, and
route, start
that's
that
why I
way.
tell. That's why I tell. Like,
Ain't
but
nothing
the
wrong
thing
with
is,
JUCO.
we're in the world now where like we're having that conversation. Like, remember when you a couple years older than me, but when I was coming out, like JUCO, me going to JUCO was almost like, bro, this your last chance. Like, the whole
Bro,
last chance.
I went to a JUCO, and all the kids that would failed off from the big time D1 schools, they came in and they were so distraught. Like, yo, I have to take trains and buses to go to school, and our practice facility is downtown. We gotta take all these train buses. While I was on campus living the life, I got a 5-star facilities, but that's me growing up. The jobs, but JUCO's changed. Like some of these JUCO facilities are
Are
top notch.
nice,
So
and now you could get some money. So like, it's not wrong for making
exactly, it
money in junior
changes.
college. It's not wrong for having a job. Like, all the rules have opened up with NIL, so it makes it a more realistic route. And also, like, when you think about where a lot of these JUCOs are located, they're on the outskirts. Like, they're a lot of, not necessarily middle of nowhere, but they're not necessarily located dead in the center of the big cities. They're where
Yeah,
you can fully focus and move, and it's just the campus and basketball and people on the campus and the people that you get to know there, and you create a life there for a couple years. You get your value up. Like, all you're really doing, especially some of the people. But then I tell the people, like, if you don't have a star next to your name, it's not like when I was, you could have somebody who was a 0 star who happened to go to a mid-major and then build his way up and went there for 4 years and then transferred out or something. That was a possibility, but no stars could get to mid-majors. D1 basketball, not, it was still so hard to obtain, but you didn't necessarily have to have a star next to your name to get there. Now, like, you're talking about 3 stars being in trouble and having to go to mid majors, back in 4 stars having to go to mid majors and get their value up. So I'm like, if you don't have a star next to your name, the simplest thing should be, you should be in a lot of JUCO's DMs, sending your film, because that's going to be the route for you to go. Let them build you and create your value over the
exactly.
next 2 years. Let yourself mature at that level. And JUCO is now very, I mean, it's always been high level basketball, but guys that
Good
want to get it out the
basketball.
mud, girls that want to get it out the mud. But now, like, you're talking about some real deal talent up in there, not just to get it out the mud, scrappy. This is everybody's last chance. It's all or nothing mentality, but like that real smooth finesse. There's real talent. I mean, there's JUCOs fielding. What was that? That one JUCO that had 5 starters. 4 of them were like former 5 stars.
Mm-hmm.
And a former 4 star was their starting 5. Like, so this JUCO level talent is definitely way, way more talented than it was
Well,
15,
like you
20 years
said,
ago.
a lot of these kids don't want to get out of mud, man. They don't want to get dirty. Hey, so they don't want that because the JUCO still has a negative connotation to it. Like, oh, you gotta go
But
play
it
JUCO
shouldn't
ball,
at this point.
but it
You got to
shouldn't.
open
But
your eyes, bro.
that's where you need to talk to the right people. You have to have the right circle around to tell you, hey, this may be the move. Like you were a 3-star. All right. Like I mentioned before, would you rather spend 1 or 2 years on the bench, no getting no minutes? You were a 3-star, so you're not really a priority, right? Or go JUCO route, get that name up. Now
Go
you're
score
gonna
20
average
points a
20.
game and get out the
What I
portal, bro.
saw a lot too with doing a lot of this was that there's a lot of those mid-major schools took on JUCOs who averaging 18, 19 a game. And then now those kids are going from JUCO, now they're playing at solid programs now. There's nothing wrong with that route. It's just you need to have the right people. And that's this coach in high school basketball. You coach high school basketball in Texas. So like that's big time. I'm in New York and I see so many kids just take the wrong advice so much. And that's the problem is with especially with circuit scene and the shoe companies being involved. You could listen to the wrong people, and then you could be one of those kids like, oh, you have 5 schools? You've been to 5 schools? Dude, Mo, there was one kid, he went to a new school 5 straight years. Now, to me, I'm all for player movement. Like, I hated that the fact that you had to, when you transferred, you had to wait a
You had to
year.
sit a
I thought
year,
that
yeah.
sucked. But, dude, I'm sorry. You cannot. 5 chances to you, no, that's too much. And
At the
I do
same time,
feel for a lot of these
I don't like
mid-major
them being
coaches.
25 years old. I don't like them being 25 years old in
Also,
college.
I
I
don't
get
like that too because a lot of these rosters are like 25, 24, 25 year olds. And it's like, all right,
Bro, look how old
like
St.
how
John's
much?
roster was last year, bro. Like, St. John's roster
Yeah,
was
they were
old last year.
old,
Like, look, some of
old
the top
roster. So,
teams, their rosters are old. We're not talking about old where they got a bunch of juniors and seniors that are 20 and 21,
you know, super
22
duper,
years old
super
at the
duper
oldest.
seniors.
you might catch a 5th-year senior that's 23. No, you talk about, bro, your starting 5, your youngest player is 23. Like, we're talking about, we got 24, 25, 26-year-old guys,
That's like
7,
Memphis.
8 years of eligibility.
Memphis is
That
a pretty
to me
old
is
team.
no longer like the college basketball is no different than the G League in a sense.
Well,
The only difference is
it's like
you're
anything
on the campus.
Well, it's like any level. Like there, you might be a better prospect, right? If you're, let's say, you're a 12-year-old, you're better. You're probably, let's say, you're the best 12-year-old,
You better be a better prospect playing against 10-year-olds.
but
Yes.
but you're going to get 16-year-olds, and they may not be that good, but simply because they're just older and more mature, they're going to beat you up because they're just older and mature. It doesn't mean they're better. They're going to be better players down the line, and that's where we're kind of going into college basketball, and that's where a lot of these kids are messing up. These supposedly top prospects coming out is that when they go against the older teams, they look like they don't belong, and then that projects to the next level, and then they go from being a top 5 pick and they drop into the 20. That's how. Just look at all the guys who dropped that were supposed to be, top 5 picks, and like,
because you're an 18-year-old 5-star going against guys that were 4 stars 7 years ago. Now, a lot of these guys that are in the league, a lot of these guys that are in college basketball now aren't necessarily that are been in the college for 6, 7 years, ain't necessarily former 5 stars, but a couple of them be 4 stars and 3 stars, and you're going against these guys who were 4 stars and 3 stars 7 years ago. Now they've matured, they become better basketball players, and they're playing college at a professional age. You're 24 years old playing college basketball. You are at the age of a professional. People graduate college at 21, 22 years old when you're talking about coming straight out of high school. Not just when we're only talking sports, going straight
Houston had a 26. Memphis had a 26-year-old last year, a few years back. So like, it just comes to a point where
basketball being the business has ruined and it hasn't ruined it yet, but it's slowly deteriorating and ruining the essence of basketball because everything is a business route. But if everybody at every level can embrace where it's at and still figure out where to go, then I think basketball will be fine. But we have to protect the game, and it starts at the top, like you said, with everything that came out this week. Like, once the integrity of a game is in question, then it trickles down to the damage of a game because you start to be like, well, what is the point of playing? And you do not want this generation to catch an attitude of what's the point in playing if the outcome is already determined in the integrity.
And the worst part is that it's a head coach that got involved with that. The fact that Chauncey Billups got caught, like the player, you can get the player is going to be able to control himself, right? The head coach controls everything, like the play calling, everything, who plays, who doesn't play. So that's where you get if it's Chauncey Billups, who's a head coach of a professional basketball team, that's even worse than a player doing it, in my opinion, because like I said, he controls everything. He controls who plays, who doesn't play. You get 3 minutes, right? If you got an over under on 4 points a game, and he could control that. Like, all right, you're going to play this amount of minutes so you can get them 4 points if you hit them overs. But I just think the silliness of not knowing that people are going to catch up on this. And we just saw Jonte Porter get caught, and we've seen a few people get caught. Like, what makes you think that they're not going to pick this up? Like, oh, suddenly this guy who doesn't play is getting a lot of action on his unders, on whatever it is, rebounds, whatever. Like, this guy never gets action. Now it's suddenly 1,000 people are betting his under when it was like one
and
or
betting
two people maybe were
on it
and betting like big money. And like, come on, you don't think they're going to be like, hey, hold up a second. Something happening here. And guess what? They're always going to find out. It's 2025. They will get your ass. And that's what happened. And I just hope we don't see more of this, like with the coaches. Because that's like, remember, the referee, Tim Donnie, that was because that's like, the refs can control the game. That's why that was such a big deal. But like, now you have head coaches
and players.
That's where Adam Silver, like the Rozier, whatever. That's one guy. Porter stuff, like people almost forgot about that. But like Chauncey Billups is a head coach of a NBA team. He controls a lot. Like he could dictate a lot, and he got busted. That's where, if we see more head coaches or any type of coaches get busted, that's where you can have a big issue.
Yeah, the higher up you start to go into, like, because then if it goes from coaches to now GMs are involved, then it goes.
Because GMs could be like, yo, yeah, you're not playing him. He ain't playing. he ain't playing.
Yeah, you
Or
know what
he's
I'm
playing
saying?
2
Like, but
minutes.
if you
Yeah.
get to that level where it reaches that, like the entire integrity of the game is,
Is
called into
cooked.
question.
Yeah.
But
And if you're basketball, you don't want that because we just talked about all the great players that are in the league. We're witnessing LeBron, maybe his last season. Steph Curry is on his last few years, possibly. KD, Russell Westbrook, all these great players, Hardens, all the great players are on their last legs. So you want to embrace that and the great young talent we have, and even some of the other guys in the middle, like the Tatums and the Lucas. You want to embrace that. You don't want this being the focal point when you feel like you're on a high right now. You have the new NBC that had they couldn't have had a better opening start to the season. NBC with Rockets and OKC, right? And like the new Amazon thing, it feels like there's a new breath of fresh air with the way the game is being presented. And now you got the TNT guys on ESPN, and like they let that be, like they didn't touch it because you watch the post game and the pregame and all that halftime. You're like, oh, this is the same show that we watched on Turner. So, maybe ESPN is not going to mess it up after all. So, like, you feel like you got all the little stuff. You brought the logo back to the championship, the trophy back. You brought the pregame stuff that people like, why don't they show the pregame stuff and all that? The little things that people were complaining about, you brought that back. You don't want to get away from that. Be like, okay, now we got a betting scandal. You want to make sure get that nipped out of the butt. Make people sure forget that in a week and get back to people talking about Victor Wembanyama. Is he the greatest player we've ever seen?
yeah,
Can Cooper Flag live up to being the number one pick? All these teams. Can the Knicks win a championship? They're off to a great start so far. They beat down on the Cavs. Can they finally win a championship for the first time since '73? You have so many great storylines. Orlando, all this, Can your Heat? They're still like, can they still figure it out how to without Jimmy Butler? Can the Warriors do it with Jimmy Butler? So many
yeah.
great. The Lakers, LeBron. This is it for LeBron. Blah blah blah. There's so many great storylines that you don't want that be hovering over. So they got to figure it out. They got to nip that. But Adam
Especially
Silver was not
how
happy with that.
especially with how many great games were played this week, and like that's what takes
Dude,
over. You had the Denver Nuggets and Golden State Warriors down to the wire. 42 points from Steph Curry, 50 points from Aaron Gordon, 30 points from Jimmy Butler. Like a lot of these games that went down to the wire, we've seen some great performances already.
Luka had 50, right? Didn't he have 50? Oh no, that was SGA had 55.
Yeah, had 55. That's what I say. Aaron Gordon had 50 in a loss.
Aaron
Like
Gordon had
there's just
50.
some
Luka dropped
performances.
48 yesterday.
40,
Like
he
this.
dropped 40 back-to-back games. I know they lost the first game, but then he dropped 49 the other night and they won. And so there's just so many things going on, like great performances, and it gets masked by this betting thing. And that's where, when that first dropped on what was that Thursday morning, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
the NBA is back, brother. We done went from like all these performances, this Houston OKC game, the Lakers, and this just all this drama in the first 2 days, and then you wake up Thursday morning. We've seen everybody playing the NBA, and now an NBA head coach wakes up in the morning, and in the wee hours of the morning we find out is getting arrested, not just arrested
Yeah.
on like a DUI or something, arrested by the FBI. But Chris, we gonna close out the show right there. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. We appreciate everybody for listening on this special collaboration episode of the Coach Mo Murphy podcast and the Off the Ball podcast with my good friend Chris LeBron. Make sure you go check out Off the Ball podcast anywhere you get your podcast. Chris, plug in your preview article because college basketball hasn't started yet. And so if you haven't purchased yours now, you need to go ahead and purchase. If I'm not mistaken, it was just $12, Chris. It was
Just
$12,
$12,
$14.
bro.
Yeah. I was gonna say I paid
$12
$12
get you.
$14, but I went and got my copy. I had to, like, I was always going to support. You could have told me it was 25. It wasn't about the price. It was always about the support and checking out your work. But go ahead, plug it in and tell everybody else where they can check it out.
Yeah, so I did collaborated with the Center Hub, and we did a whole college basketball magazine. Our guy Kev Luke, he did a couple pro. I forgot what pro. I think he did West Coast teams because he's out west, so he did more of some of the West Coast conferences. But I handled the American and American East out over here out east. So check that out. Yeah, that was a fun. Like I said, I got real in detail with every team in those two conferences. Got to talk to some head coaches too. So check that out. $12 gets you every team preview, every conference preview. We go down with our top 25 players, in college basketball, predictions, all American teams, freshman teams, everything. We break it down. This was a fun project I was able to do. So go check that out. That's still available, Center Hub, or you can check out. I think it's pinned on my Twitter, so check that out too. But go to Center Hub and you get the direct link right to, and you can purchase that. But you can follow me at Off the Ball Podcast on X, Instagram. Gonna get I got a couple cool things coming up. Going to be covering more in season with the NBA draft. So I got that in the works. Doing a full season of these prospects, covering that, and then some cool, what ifs with our guy Omar. I did some. We did some of these podcasts previously, like what if Shaq never left Orlando? What if Brandon Roy got hurt? We got one in the works. I'll give you a little tease. It's going to talk about the 2003 draft. We're going to deep dive into that and how stuff changes, and it affects your team too, because it changes everything. And you should thank Detroit for passing up on Melo, because that kind of changed the whole. Like I mentioned, this year could be the best 1, 2, 3 ever. We could have had that potentially if it would have been Braun, Melo, and D Wade. That could have been the best 1, 2, 3 ever. But obviously that did not happen. So me and Omar are going to go down and change and go into the future and kind of break down what happens if Melo goes to Detroit and Wade, and we'll see if Wade is the third. We'll go and deep dive into that and see how much that actually changes the whole league going into the future. So those things are fun. So I got those coming up. So excited about those projects.
Yeah, 100%. Well, definitely looking forward to that. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. We appreciate everybody for listening. Be well, be safe, and we will catch y'all later on talking more basketball later on in the season. Peace.